On today's show, we have fangs and fiends from the lavish glitz of Hollywood to the gothic grit of England's Hammer Studios.
Please, no!
Your will is mine.
Let's sink our teeth into them.
So sit back and relax, because the top 10 Dracula films from Hammer to Hollywood begins now.
Keep me in here!
Starting us off at number 10, we have Hammer's fourth installment in their highly successful Dracula series with 1968's Dracula Has Risen from the Grave, which is probably the most honest movie title ever written. Dracula Has Risen from the Grave. That's it. No bait and switch, no metaphors. Just Dracula doing exactly what it says on the poster. This one stars the magnificent Christopher Lee, who by this point had played Dracula so many times that he probably woke up every morning and checked to see if he had fangs. A Monsignor travels to Dracula's castle to perform an exorcism. Noble idea, terrible execution. His cowardly priest companion cuts his head, bleeds on the castle, and accidentally resurrects Dracula. Let that sink in. The man sent to stop Dracula brought him back with a forehead scratch. Dracula, understandably furious, immediately hypnotizes a barmaid and goes after the Monsignor's niece because, well, this is a Dracula movie. Christopher Lee says approximately 4 words in this film. He doesn't need more. The man communicates entirely in cheekbones and murder. A fantastic late 60s entry and proof that Dracula never stays dead for long. Seriously, the man treats coffins like hotel rooms. Coming in at number 9 is Son of Dracula, a 1946 Universal movie starring Lon Chaney Jr. as Count Alucard. Yes, Alucard, which, spoiler alert, is Dracula spelled backwards. Apparently, the greatest minds in vampire hunting took several decades to crack that code. The plot is wild. A mysterious nobleman moves to Louisiana, and absolutely no one suspects the guy named Alucard might be related to Dracula. Not a single person. Lon Chaney Jr. plays the role like a gloomy, supernatural boyfriend who just moved into town and brought eternal darkness with him. And this movie is important because it introduced a lot of things we now associate with vampires, like turning into mist and bats. Plus, the atmosphere is incredible. Southern Gothic swamps, foggy nights, creepy mansions. Basically, if Dracula had moved to the bayou and started a jazz band.
Well, you've made it all the way to number 8 on our countdown, and we have...
At number 8, we have Hammer's 1966 classic, Dracula, Prince of Darkness. At the end of the previous Hammer Dracula film, the Count dissolved in sunlight, completely gone. Ash, so how do you bring him back? His butler clovlers for English tourists to the castle. Hangs one of them upside down over Dracula's ashes, and drains his blood into the remains. Dracula reconstitutes himself from the carpet up. Does this guy know how to make an entrance, or what? Christopher Lee is so terrifying in this film that he was given 0 dialogue. The producers decided words would only make him less frightening. Geesh, I guess they were right.
At number 7 is the return of the vampire. Yes, that's right. Bela Lugosi returns as Dracula.
You cannot escape!
At number 7, it's the return of the vampire. Yes, that's right. Bela Lugosi returns as Dracula. Except that Universal made Dracula. And since this is a Columbia picture, Dracula gets a name change. Meet Armin Tesla, Romanian cape enthusiast. Definitely not Dracula. Wink, wink. Yep, Dracula became an electrical engineer driving a battery-operated car. He staked a few years back during World War I. But when the Nazis bombed London in '42, his coffin is unearthed, so air raid workers can remove the stake. So technically, Hitler brought Dracula back. I mean, Armin Tesla. He also has a werewolf assistant named Andreas, which raises questions the film just refuses to answer. That's why this movie is our number 7 Dracula film. He might not be called Dracula, but when Bela Lugosi is on screen in a cape and bodies are piled high, well, you know what everyone came to see? This film isn't called Return of the Wolfman Personal Assistant.
You can't bite me on the neck! I'm Godzilla! You are mine now, beast!
We arrive at number 6, and Hammer is getting creative with the resurrection department. 3 wealthy Victorian gentlemen, respectable, church-going, pillar of the community types, spend their weekends at brothels and opium dens, as one does. They meet a disgraced lord who convinces them to participate in a Dracula resurrection ritual. I guess the hookers and opium dens weren't enough. They get cold feet, murder the Lord instead, and leave. Bad move. Dracula rises, anyway, and is extremely annoyed about the dead Lord. So, he does the sensible thing. He hypnotizes their children to murder them. The lesson here is that if someone invites you to resurrect Dracula, and you kill them instead, Dracula will find out. Dracula always finds out. Dracula is less a romantic villain here and more a supernatural hitman. It's dark, stylish, and one of the meaner Dracula films Hammer made. Halfway through the countdown at number 5, a movie ahead of its time. From 1936, it's Dracula's Daughter, the direct sequel to the 1931 original Dracula movie, picking up exactly where it left off, with Van Helsing standing over Dracula's staked corpse trying to explain himself to the police. Enter Countess Maria Zaleska, Dracula's daughter. She steals her father's body, burns it in a ritual, and hopes this will cure her of vampirism. Nope, that didn't work. She still has a dark desire for the taste of human blood, buckets of the stuff. A little bothered by her own compulsion, she tries therapy instead and visits a psychiatrist in London. Please, doctor, I don't want to drink human blood anymore. The doctor tells Dracula's daughter that she can end her cravings by confronting them head-on. Great idea, Doc. So, naturally, Dracula's daughter kills more people. This leads to a memorable scene between the Countess and a young model who was hoping to be painted just not in blood. Yikes. This is either the most progressive 1930s horror film ever made, or the least effective therapy session in history. Possibly both.
Those two zanies, Abbott and Costello, are in for a real scare when they meet the monsters.
Ah! Run for it, Abbott!
Lou, it's the monster!
He's got me, bud! Ah! We're captured!
Now we come to our number 4 Dracula entry. It's 1948's Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein. But you could also call this movie Abbott and Costello meet the Wolfman, Dracula, Frankenstein, and a vampire woman. But it's not as easy to say. Lon Chaney Jr. reprises his role as the Wolfman, opening the film by calling Lou to warn him about some crates headed for McDougal's House of Horrors. Would you like fries with that? But the moon turns full, and Lon turns into the Wolfman. Lou thinks it's a prank, and now the trouble starts. The crates they deliver at night. Yes, they have to be delivered at night. And they are hiding the living dead bodies of none other than Dracula and Frankenstein's monster. One thing leads to another, and we discover that Dracula, who is pulling the strings in this plot like some kind of grand puppet master, has a plan to transplant Lou Costello's brain into Frankenstein's monster. Frankenstein might be on the title, but Dracula is clearly the brains of this operation. At number 3, we have a Hammer classic in the Dracula series. It might not have Christopher Lee, and the lead vampire isn't even called Dracula. But it does have Peter Cushing back as Van Helsing. The movie opens with Mary Ann, a school teacher on her way to Transylvania. She gets ditched at an inn because even her driver has an aversion to the land of the blood drinkers. She meets a certain Baroness Meinster, who says, "You can stay with us. Oh, and by the way, since you're here, I have my son chained to a wall on the premises because he's a monster that'll kill us all." And Mary Ann's like, "Sounds like someone I should immediately flirt with." So she sneaks in, and he says, "My mother is evil. I'm the victim. Please free me." I mean, he is literally in a dungeon in Transylvania, chained. She steals the key, frees him, and within 5 minutes, he murders his mom and drinks her blood. Peter Cushing returns as Van Helsing and delivers the finest vampire bat attack scene in the history of cinema. He cauterizes a vampire bite on his own neck with a red-hot branding iron. Without flinching, all man, all Van Helsing, all in the Brides of Dracula.
The greatest horror show of all time, starring Bela Lugosi as Dracula.
No way, mister, your breath is rank!
The number 2 entry on the Dracula top 10s of Hammer and Hollywood is the first Dracula, the man who popularized the role on Broadway and then on film, Bela Lugosi in 1931's Dracula. His commanding stage presence and performance made the film an instant classic. Dracula, aka Real Estate Deal Goes Horribly Wrong. Renfield shows up in Transylvania, and the locals are like, "Hey man, don't go to that castle. Vampire lives there." And Renfield goes, "Thanks, but I'll be okay." He gets picked up by a coach driver, who disappears mid-ride, and is replaced by a bat. Then he meets Count Dracula, all charming, polite, definitely not evil. Next thing you know, Renfield's hypnotized, passed out, and being sized up like an all-you-can-eat buffet. Cut to England Renfield is now a full-time lunatic, eating bugs. Dracula rolls into London and he meets Mina, Lucy, the whole gang, and immediately picks Mina like she's the appetizer. Enter Professor Van Helsing. He's like, no reflection. Hates garlic? Bites necks? Yeah, I'm gonna go out on a limb here. Vampire. Van Helsing grabs a piece of wood and just ends him. No epic speech, no dramatic duel, just good morning, die. And Mina's fine again, because apparently vampirism is reversible if you act fast.
I am now Dracula.
Now you do as I command, beast!
No one commands me!
Dracula made me pee my pants.
And finally, at number 1, we have Hammer's masterpiece, Horror of Dracula. This is where Dracula became truly terrifying. Christopher Lee storms onto the screen like a supernatural predator. Red eyes, blood on his fangs, pure menace. And facing him is the unstoppable Peter Cushing as Van Helsing. This isn't a polite Victorian vampire hunt, this is a war. The final battle between Dracula and Van Helsing is one of the greatest climaxes in horror history. It's fast, brutal, and visually stunning. Hammer took the old Universal monster and injected it with pure adrenaline. And that's why Horror of Dracula takes the number 1 spot.
And there you have it, the top 10 Hammer and Hollywood Dracula films. Make sure you hit like and subscribe.